Hello everyone, welcome to the next pericope in the story of Abram. You know, pericope is one of those words that spell check really doesn't like. It's always trying to turn it into a periscope. In any case, in the first pericope, God called Abram to a new land and made him promises, and then Abraham went to that land, moved around as a herder, and at each place that he set up camp, he stopped and he proclaimed the name of the Lord. He worshiped the Lord. And this pericope is going to move out of the land, and things are going to start to get a little bit precarious. So why don't we dive in with the first paragraph, and we'll review some of the verbs as we go. We start with vayihi, common technique for starting a paragraph. Vayihi ra'av ba'aretz, there was a famine in the land. Vayered Avram mitzrayimah lagur sham. So let's take a look at vayered. How will we parse it? Well, there's nothing at the end. At the beginning, we have vav pitak dagesh, so it's a preterite. The dagesh is in the prefix, which is a yod. So prefix yod and no ending, 3ms. And the prefix has an E-class vowel, which leans us toward cow. But what's the root? We've only got two root letters left. Yeah, the root is yarad, and the yod that is the first root letter has become part of the tsere, right? It would have been trying to close the syllable, and because it's the weak letter behavior of yod is that it's going to be become part of the vowel preceding it. So we've gone from having a chirik to having a tsere. So Abram went down to Egypt, see the directional hey on the end of Mitzrayim, to stay there for a while. Ki kaved harav ba'aretz. So repeating information in the opening line, this is setting information, but just using it as motivation. Why is it that he went? Because the famine was severe in the land. And then we have vayihi again, right? The technique for starting a paragraph, but the events in here are going to happen before they've gotten all the way down to Egypt. So this is the technique that we saw in the previous pericope where the beginning lines sort of give a preview of stuff that's coming, and then this section happens inside of that, as it were. So I'm treating all of this together as one paragraph. We could argue that what we have in verse 10 is a title or something like that. In any case, vayihi, and then it happened, ka'asher hikriv lavo mitzrayimah. So let's take a look at hikriv. What's at the end? Well, again, nothing. At the beginning, there's a prefix. Its prefix is hey, so hifil or hofal. And what is R1 doing? R1 has joined the prefix, pretonic closed short, with a chirik, not with a patak. If there had been a patak, we might be thinking imperative or something, but we're not in direct speech, so we wouldn't expect an imperative at all. This would be a hifil perfect from karav. And how are we going to translate that? How are we going to move karav into the hifil? This one's a little bit more tricky than some when they go from the kal into the hifil. Karav is a stative verb, be near, be close. You can translate it come near or approach simply because stative verbs in the kal inherently have that transitional possibility to them, be X or become X. When we move into the hifil, we're thinking maybe the subject is going to make a direct object come close, and then we could translate that as present or bring near. And often, probably most often, that's how it works because there's a direct object. Here we don't have a direct object, and so it's more or less referring back to the subject. Abram brings himself near, and so we can just say that he approached, right? As this is what happened as he got close to entering Egypt. Vayomer el Sarai ishto. He said to Sarai, his wife. And then we have the quote, and so all of this is going to be what he said for the rest of the paragraph. So we have Hinena yadati, look here, I know. So hine is an attention grabber. He says it with na, so that's a particle of politeness. Maybe we should translate, look here, please look here, please consider. Yadati. What's at the end? T from anoki, so 1 CS, and there's no prefix or anything at the front. R1 has kamate, so a cow perfect. 1 CS of yada. This also is stative, And so we're translating present tense. Look here, please. I know. Ki isha yafat mar'at. So I know that a woman beautiful of appearance you are, said Yoda. And again, present tense. There's no verb here. It's a nominal clause. And then we have vihaya. Now, vihaya is not hard to parse, right? You're looking at the lexical form with a vav on the front. So it's a cow perfect 3ms from haya. What's important here is the syntax. We have a vav plus a perfect consecutive. And what does a perfect consecutive do? And it either continues the framework of the previous verb or it advances it one step. And that can be logical or temporal. And so here, Abram is starting out with a premise, and then he's drawing an inference. So, I know how gorgeous you are, and this is what's going to happen. We have Ki Yir'u Otak HaMitzrayim. When the Egyptians, well, let's look at Yir'u. What's going on with that? What's at the end? Yeah, we've got U. U's always a plural thing, whether it's on a noun or a verb. What's at the beginning? Well, there's a yod there. Is that a prefix yod or is that a first radical yod? If it's a first radical, then we'd be thinking this is from Yareh, and that would be the Egyptians fear you. And if that's not a first radical yod, if it's an imperfect prefix, then we're probably thinking Ra'ah, when the Egyptians see you, which is the thing that makes sense here. In terms of structure, we've got R1, the resh, joining the prefix, the yod, to make a pretonic closed short syllable. And so the resh can actually take that silent shavah, whereas if we had Yareh beginning with yod, then that yod would have its weak consonant behavior triggered and it would become part of a vowel and it would not stand over a silent shavah. In any case, so we've got a new section to what he's saying. He's giving the inference. This is what will happen when the Egyptians see you, when they look at you. Va'amaru. Again, we have a perfect, but it's a vav plus a perfect consecutive. So he's continuing to project this line of events that he anticipates will happen. They will say, quote, Ishto Zot. Well, this is his wife. Again, with them noticing her beauty. And then he says, V'haragu oti ve'otak yechayu. Right, so this is the end of the chain of reasoning. They will kill me, but they will let you live. So v'haragu is another perfect consecutive, third common plural. It's also kal. And then with ve'otak yechayu, let's take that one apart. What's at the end? Now we've got the u, right? We're expecting third common plural because that's what we've had a string of. And at the beginning, yeah, we've got a yod, right? It's the prefix yod this time because this is not a verb first construction. If this had been verb first, he probably would have used vav plus perfect consecutive again. But because he chose to emphasize, but you, they will let live, we don't have verb first, and so he's got to use the imperfect in order to convey the future time or the next thing in the projected sequence. What's the stem here? Okay, we want to look at R1 and the syllable that it's in, and that syllable starts with the prefix over vocal shavah, then the patak under R1, the chet, and then we have R2 yod with a dagesh forte in it. Vocal shavah, patak, dagesh. That is a PL from the root chaya, chaya meaning to live. So what's it going to mean when we get into the PL? So chaya, to be alive, to live. The PL, to make alive. Depending on the circumstance, that might be to revive somebody who's feeling exhausted. And here it's different. They're going to allow you to live, right? They're not going to cause her to live or make her be alive. She's already alive. It's just that they're going to let her live because they're going to want her for their own, is what he anticipates. So then we come to Imrina achotiat. Let's look at Imri. What's at the end this time? Yeah, we've got hiric yod, and that could either be a 1cs pronominal suffix or it could be a verb ending. If it's a verb ending, where would it come from? Yeah, it would come from the imperfect paradigm second feminine singular. Do we have a second feminine singular prefix on the front? No, we don't. And why don't we? Because this is an imperative, right? We would have had a tav there. The prefix tav gets removed when we make the imperative. And so we have say, or imri na, please say that you are my sister. And now we've gotten to the main point of everything that he is saying to his wife Sarai. And so this is yet another section to what he says. Please say that you are my sister. Lama'an yitav li va'avurek, so that it will go well for me because of you. Let's look at yitav. Yitav, again, nothing at the end. We've got prefix yod on the front, and then we also have R1 yod there. So this is a cal imperfect of the root yatav, also 3ms. So maybe you're wondering, well, how come yitav gets the yod and vayered gets tsere when we put the prefix in front of first yod? So just kind of a broad sweep. If we've got R1 yod and it is originally a stative verb, like yitav is stative, then we're going to get this construction almost all the time. The R1 yod stays there as a mater, and the prefix gets hiric. If we had R1 yod, but it was originally vav, then even if it was stative, we would get a tsere under the prefix, just like vayered has here. And if we have R1 originally vav and fientiv, then we get what we have here with vayered. We get the tsere under the prefix, and we also get an E-class theme vowel. Okay, but back to translation. Next we have v'hayata nafshi biglalek. So again, vav plus perfect consecutive. This one is third feminine singular because nafshi, my soul, my life, is the subject of the verb. And my soul will live on account of you. So that's the first paragraph of this pericope. We can see that the next paragraph is going to start with Vayehi again. We have a title that looks ahead to what's coming. And then most of the paragraph is a quote from one of the characters, in this case, Abram. The quote has 3 components to it. And since the main idea here is the request for what Sarai should say to the others, we could look at all of the 2 previous units as being subordinate to it, because we have first our basic assumption and then the inference about how the Egyptians will react to that. And that is the basis then of his request, whereas the rest of verse 13 gives the purpose of his request. So when we're in narrative and we see a direct quote, our direct quote is often itself not narrative. And here we have hortatory discourse, which is built to in this logical statement. We might even say that this first part is expository discourse. It describes what is. And this part maybe at least behaves like predictive discourse because he says this is what will happen based on the thing that is true, that you are a beautiful woman. And then finally we conclude with the request. Some people would take it more as a perspective of let's just say, hey, there's 3 bits to what he says, and let's treat each of the bits as a type of discourse and see how they work. But okay, we're not going to go terribly deep into discourse issues. We're just trying to go paragraph by paragraph and get a little bit of review of our Hebrew in as we go. And we hope you'll be back with us tomorrow for the next paragraph.